online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Before we get to some of the new Wirepoints reporting,
Yes.
Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related, joins us now. Ted, I want to get to this running, phony conflict that the Chicago Press Corps has been pushing to avert attention away from things like your superintendent story that we're going to get to. And I'm talking about this $175 million pension payment and whether it comes from CPS or whether it comes from the city of Chicago. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that's all the same taxpayers, isn't it? Ted?
Ted?
Yeah, you hear me? Hello.
I do now.
Hello.
Ted?
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same taxpayers, right? It doesn't matter whether it's CPS or Chicago. It's the same taxpayers on the hook for all these pensions. And we've actually done some work on this. Every Chicago household on average owes about $95,000 in pension costs, whether it's CPS,
Jeez.
Chicago, the state, Cook County. So they can try to play hot potato with a $175 million pension payment between who should pay it, CPS or Chicago, the city, which is the big fight. But in the end, it's the poor old everyday Chicago family's got to pay the burden.
And yet, at the NPR Times, a state-funded, state-run media, this op-ed from a former CPS principal and a CPS parent, which tells you a lot. The op-ed, CPS students and families can't afford city's $175 million pension demand. I mean, this is what you're dealing with. I don't know how else to say it.
Unbelievable.
Well, it's tied to the piece we wrote about today, but it's so much phony baloney, so much it's failed governance. And it's almost like this piece today. I've had it. It's just crazy what's going on, and that's.
Your principal, they don't understand. You understand if you're a city of Chicago resident or an Illinois resident, you pay for all the units of government, even the ones you don't like. Do you understand that? People like I'm just exhausted at having to go back as far as one is required to go back to talk to people like that CPS principal, that CPS parent about the basics of life, the basics of state and local government. They don't know anything.
Know. And
Nothing.
She's a principal.
Well, and what's also fascinating about the whole thing is that, CPS has lost 110,000 students since 2000. And literally, I mean, it's, we did the numbers. It's almost 100% blacks that have left, right? So
lucky for them.
There's not many whites left there, right? It's only about 10%. Hispanics are still coming in, we know, through the illegal immigration. But it's the blacks who've left. And in the same principle, I have no idea who she is and all that, but so much of this is that whole, posturing for the black community, but the black community is the one that's escaping the system.
Well, escaping a system, but whoever's left doesn't seem particularly intent on changing it. I mean, it's still a majority black district. So, I mean, not everybody's getting out. And oh, by the way, whether it's 450,000 kids back in the day or 300,000 kids, 320,000 kids today, that's a lot of kids that are being given the shaft.
Absolutely. All
right. Well, let's talk about more kids being given the shaft, because it's not just in Chicago; it's in the suburbs too. Top school district superintendents ranked by base salary in 2024. Give us the hit list.
You got Kevin Nolte from Dalton, famous Dalton. He just got a salary increase of to $450,000.
Oh my
No, I'm sorry, to $480,000. He just got the increase, $480. And when you add some other stuff, it's over $500. You got the guy from Deerfield, Michael Simic, total compensation $415.
Well, let's just hold on. Let's just hold on. Let's
Sure.
just talk about Kevin Nolte and Dalton.
Sure.
$480,000 base, so 5.5 total comp. Pedro Martinez, by the way, the head of the Chicago Public Schools, is at $350. So Dalton's at $480. Chicago's at $350. Now they're both overpaid as far as I'm concerned, but I mean just to give you scale of silliness. And Dalton, the percentage of students in Dalton School District 148 that are proficient in reading, 19%, proficient in math, 7%.
7. Oh my gosh.
And he got a bump from 450 to 480 because, hey, it's going well.
Yeah, it's going well. And yeah, he was at 290 just a few years ago, so he's getting that big old salary spike that happens to superintendents here in Illinois, where they just get bumped up, and the big reason why is to get the big pensions. But when you look at Dalton and you look at a lot of these South Cook suburbs, most of the kids there can't read. Most of the kids can't do math, and I don't mean most. I mean like the overwhelming percentage can't. And yet this pay just goes up, and these turn into lifetime pensions of $8 to $9 to $10 million lifetime pensions. It's amazing.
Just
Yeah,
again, a
but they
comparison.
know those numbers. Those numbers are abysmal. Why is he getting a raise?
Why don't you ask the school board? Why don't you ask the residents who elect the school board? Why don't you ask the teachers union? Okay. Kevin Nolte, Dalton School District 148, $480,000. New Trier superintendent Paul Sally is at $305,000.
Big difference. It's a big difference.
I mean, come on. I mean, because why are they getting these numbers in these terrible school districts? Because they're not school districts. They're not cities. They're kleptocracies.
Well, that's exactly right. And, I say that they get that because we let them, because they can. And, I call this whole thing legally corrupt, right? We're talking about three big things here. We're talking about, the fact that they don't do anything about this, or the fact, Amy, the fact that they allow this is they don't care about accountability in schools whatsoever. And then, we've hammered that really hard, right? Most kids in the whole system in Illinois can't read at grade level. Then you've got the nation's highest property taxes. This stuff, this is big pay, and big pay pulls up everybody's pay. And then, of course, the unfairness of the Illinois pension system, how we're letting, we become subservient basically to our public servants, right? They get away with this. They've got the laws that allow for the most units of the government in the country. They got these pension protection clauses. They have these really great pensions. They have now the Amendment 1. There's hardly anything we can do to stop this stuff, which is why we need to go crazy and absolutely reject it one day in an election. But until we do, they do it because they can. And this is a legally corrupt system that just keeps hitting home values, property taxes. People are leaving the schools. Most of these schools are shrinking. It's a bastardized process right now.
Yeah, Chicago. Everybody is paying attention. Everybody's paying attention to Tiffany Henyard because she was this flamboyant, silly former mayor now of Dalton. Oh, it's easy. That's low hanging fruit. Where are the stories about Dalton 148? Other than at Wirepoints, nowhere.
Yeah, and
this is all misdirection play.
Yeah, and it's everywhere, Dan. It's happening in Decatur and in Rockford and in Peoria. It's everywhere. Maybe not at the same extreme, but it's the same thing. Most families in Peoria and Decatur, they're making maybe making $50,000 or something, and yet you've got this kind of pay and this kind of behavior, this kind of non-accountability, and the electorate just watches it happen.
It's just fraudulent. Then you look at the student chronic absenteeism in Dalton is almost at 50%. It's at 47%.
Well, yeah. Let's finish going through Dalton, where he's getting $480,000, right? So, kids doing math at grade level, 7%. Kids reading at grade level, 19%. Student chronic absenteeism, 47%. Here's what's even worse: teachers with 10+ days absences, 69%. And this is stuff that's tracked by ISB. This is reported by the State Board of Education. Now, here's the good one. Teachers rated excellent or proficient in the district, 97%.
Of course. And I'll tell you what, too. The superintendent is also rated 100%. Think that the superintendent is excellent.
Okay.
I mean, why would the teachers show up? There's no kids there.
Well,
nobody needs to show up. Just have that. You just have this sort of Potemkin school buildings and so forth, and it's just a pass through for taxpayers' money. Just a pass through. Just third party administrator.
So teachers with 10-plus day absences at the state level is about 30-something%. Here it's 69%. So you got to ask, somebody's got to ask what's his name, Nolte, what the hell, right? Do teachers not have to come to work? And, there's a big correlation between teachers not showing up and kids learning. Be surprised about that. So.
Hey, I want to get to something else, too. I mean, we could do the superintendent salary story all day long, but as long as these school districts, as long as the people that live in these school districts, which is most of them, don't care about their school board and don't care about their superintendent and don't care about performance, I mean, all we're doing is just, documenting the demise of these communities and the state's future in the aggregate. But, okay, I thought this was interesting, though. Up in your neck of the woods in Winnetka. Winnetka sent out this email to continue effectively addressing criminal activity in the area at a time when the Winnetka Police Department is understaffed. The village will temporarily contract with P4 Security Solutions to provide enhanced community monitoring beginning April 1st. P4 Security Solutions will not assume the duties of Winnetka police officers. They will be there to observe, detect, and report suspicious activity to police officers while acting as a visible deterrent. I mean, I'm not, I'm catching you off guard on this, I'm sure, but first of all, Winnetka can't attract cops. Number one. Number two, you've got like a private security firm in Winnetka that they need to retain to collaborate criminal activity in the area. So one, what's the criminal activity in the area? Two is how does Winnetka not attract police officers?
Wow, you're right. I did not know about this. I'm seeing this now. I mean, that's a big story. I mean, Winnetka is really struggling,
Yeah. Well,
what crime is going on? I mean, do you feel safe, Ted? Are you okay?
Yeah,
I'll tell you, he's in the slums of Wilmette. It's even worse for him. Yeah.
Not only that, I'm in South Wilmette. So.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, wrong side of the tracks there.
No, I think, and I don't know what's going on in Winnetka, but I'm a little shocked by this because, Winnetka, of course, has the resources to do many things that it wants. The only thing I might be able to point at is that you're starting to get more traffic that comes off 94 from all kinds of crazy things that go on across the state. And it comes in and, it's not local, but I guess I don't know what to do about it. I'm a little surprised. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and it's jarring.
The pensions are good. They're going to get paid by Winnetka, all that stuff. So
they're good, but they're not as good as Lori Murray's pension. I'll tell you that. $10.2 million pension for the former superintendent of HF 233. Oh,
yeah, great gig. If you
maybe they're competing with New Trier, for at the superintendent level, and they just can't compete.
Hey, Ted, I wanted to ask you, the Chicago Firefighters Union joining forces with the CTU, what in the world is that all about?
I can't tell you. The Chicago firefighters are in big trouble. Their pensions are only 20% funded, and they have hardly any cash left. There's only about 4 years worth of cash left. That doesn't mean they run out of money in 4 years. That just tells you how little money they have in their pension account.
Okay.
And maybe they're just hoping to get some of that power that CTU has to rub off on them. But I think the CTU is so toxic right now, even amongst ordinary Chicagoans, that the fire district or firemen have no. It's not smart for them to hook up with the CTU.
And it was
at all.
so weird. This rally they had yesterday. I mean, nobody was there. Like, there's only a smattering of firefighters because I don't think they really like the CTU. And this is what Stacey Davis Gates had to say about the $175 million pension payment and the raises that they want.
Let me say this. I don't care who pays it. The city can pay it. The school district can pay it. they can figure out how to honor the workers in this city.
Yeah, she didn't care. I don't care. Yeah.
Well, why should she? It's coming from, it's the same pot.
It's the
I mean,
same
the whole
pot,
thing
right,
is so
that's
stupid.
so stupid.
By the way, just as an aside, Ted, I know you know, but I just can't reiterate this enough. Teachers are supposed to pay 9% of their salary to their pensions in Chicago. And for 40 years, CPS has been picking up 7 percentage points of the 9%, more than 2/3 of the teachers' pension payments. So they actually only pay 2% of their salary into their pensions that are now net present value 7-figure pensions and going up with this new contract in the offing. I mean, it's just like we're talking about these superintendent salaries. I mean, it just continues to careen towards the edge of the cliff, and nobody believes it's possible until you're over it.
Yeah, it's happening. I think the only thing we can do is just watch it happen, because I don't, there's no political power to stop it. And it's the same thing. If you're following what's happening with CTA and RTA and Metra, and we're looking at those numbers there. They continued to keep increasing payroll in big numbers, even as ridership fell 50%, and it's only back to 60 or 70% of where it was. Ridership is up back to 60 or 70% of where it was before COVID, and yet they've got these massive outlays of payroll. They didn't stop spending it, so you got another fiscal cliff coming. And again, guess what? It's the same damn everyday Chicagoan who's going to have to pay that bill too. And this is the big risk for Chicago that nobody understands. Right? They'll talk about the city pensions in one moment. Later on, they'll talk about CPS, and they'll talk about fiscal cliff at CTA. It's the same household that's on the hook for all of them.
Of course.
Not to mention the state problems we have. And so Chicago runs the risk at some point, somehow, of losing either enough people or enough big companies that then the math is gone. It's totally gone. It may be gone already. Some people say. I still think we can work out of it. But once the CME and the McDonald's and whatever X percent of wealthy people leave, it's a spiral, and you won't be able to get out of it.
I thought this was interesting. Governor Jellybelly is proposed cutting a program called the Health Benefits for Immigrant Adults program. 33,000 Illinoisans without legal status, including 22,000 Cook County, could be left without taxpayer-funded health care if they approve Pritzker's budget proposal to eliminate this program for people in this country illegally residing in Illinois. Well, if this was something that was proposed at the federal level, there would be hair on fire and all sorts of demagoguery about how we don't care for others, and we are afraid of the stranger. We'd be hearing about xenophobia and so on and so forth. What's going on?
Well, bingo. It's exactly what he's doing. Pritzker is criticizing these, quote, Medicaid cuts, which we haven't really heard of any Medicaid cuts yet. They've only talked about slowing down the growth of Medicaid costs. But he's saying, how dare you at the federal level cut stuff, this health care for people. And then at the same time, he was very rational, reasonable. Hey, listen, we can't afford to pay for these immigrants, all of them.
Imagine that.
Illegal immigrants, yeah. So we'll just have to do a little cost cutting. And he says it out of both sides of his mouth, and it's typical.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing I don't understand. I mean, even if there were quote unquote cuts at the federal level, I mean, because the state is so well run and because it's growing at such a rapid pace and it's an economic magnet the world over, I would think we'd be flush. We have money for these sorts of things, especially if they're a priority, which he said they are.
Yeah, well, the embarrassing thing is that Maltino wrote about this $1.6 billion that we spent on illegal immigrants and their health care, and they weren't, the government wasn't really sure how much it was and how fast it was growing, and they really got caught off guard. Yeah. Well, they knew, they just got busted, and so now he's got to eat a little crow on that, and so it's just bastardized, typical mess.
Ted Dabrowski, President of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. Listen every Sunday morning at 6 for Wyatt Matters. Wyatt Matters.